Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha, this is the Kohen speaking, and we're on wonderful Sabbath again. Now I'm going to give you some things this time that will help you, but more so, first we talk about the goings on in the world. Ukraine war is still happening with Russia. You may have known, or everybody heard about the assassination attempt on Mr. Trump, that he survived very close. The bullet caught his ear. He survived. That's great. He survived. That's wonderful. Now, it's certain that when Mr. Trump comes to power, he is going to talk to Russia and Ukraine, and he's going to stop the funding that's been going from the U.S., and he's probably going to put a stop to the war. As I explained to you in one of my previous updates, that the U.S. has been spending about $600 million a day funding Ukraine's war. Now, since there are about 300 million Americans living in America, USA, if the U.S. wanted to make every American a millionaire, they would be able to make every American a millionaire and have plenty of spare change. Now, how would that run our economy? Think about it for a minute. If the government said, hey, we're going to do a special deal for our people. We're going to give every American that lives here as a resident, legal citizen or resident, we're going to give every American a chance to better their lives and give them $1 million tax-free so they can set up business in this country and they can, start as an entrepreneur. I mean, how would that look? I think that would look amazing, wouldn't it? But again, there's nobody in power right now to do that. However, it takes a lot of guts and courage to put something like that forward. And as you know, majority of our leaders in the world in different countries, they want wars. They want to profit off the wars, but they don't really want to do anything that benefits their people. Classic example I can give you is the UK. Classic example. The bills in UK have tripled, almost tripled, maybe even quadrupled for some people, times 4. But the government is the one, UK government is the one that stopped the peace process in Ukraine. Because when Ukraine was going to talk peace with Russia, I think it was Johnson, he specially went to Ukraine and there was orders from behind that there's going to be no peace with Russia. So you can see how one decision by the elite people or the elite families in UK called that off. You see how they, by calling that peace off, they managed to make their own people's lives very difficult. And do they really care about it? And the answer is no. They don't care about it. They make billions of dollars. There are people that are connected, these so-called cabal, you want to call it some other name like Illuminati, or you want to call it the deep state. There's different names for these different entities, and whatever name you give them, they benefit from wars. They do not benefit from peace. They benefit from wars and they benefit from plagues. Those are the two things they benefit from, and that's the two things they want. You can pretty much bet your bottom dollar that the so-called COVID-19 also had a hand of these people in it. You can just bet your bottom dollar. Doesn't matter if it came out of China or wherever, but somebody had a hand in it to profit. And some of these pharma companies, big pharma companies, profited in billions of dollars in the last 2 to 3 years. Companies that were not profitable, pharma companies, they started to make billions of dollars of profit. And I don't think that you need to be educated to understand that there are certain people in our world that benefit from these things, and they want these things to continue. So anyhow, that's the update for Ukraine and Russia. And I'm pretty sure when Mr. Trump becomes a president, he is going to look to put a stop to the war. at least, and probably the funding will either decrease rapidly or it will be stopped altogether. This is why his assassination attempt was made, so that he cannot come into power. But however, God's hand is upon people, that he protects people that he wants to bring into power. So that's that. Yemen, still attacking ships. They're still continuing status quo. Lebanon has weapons that are being used to destroy Israeli cities. Israeli Jews are leaving Israel in droves. The airports are jam-packed. People are leaving, going back to the countries they came from. All these Christians, for the last 2 decades, maybe even 3 decades, that spent all this so-called money for Aliyah. What's Aliyah? Oh, we're going to help Jews get back into the land, and the Messiah is going to come. Well, guess what? All their money is gone to waste, because it wasn't yet time for the Messiah to show up. So 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, whatever term you want to put it, has been wasted. All that money they spent has been wasted, because the majority of these people have either gone back or in the process of going back. So that's that part, okay? Now, before we begin and go further, let me pray. I think this is a new segment I want to introduce, where I want to pray for the families that are listening for their well-being, okay? So I lift all of the people that are listening, all of their families that are listening, I lift them all up before you, the Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I ask for the people that are sick. I ask for their healing, for their complete healing from head to toe. For if they need to have doctors to operate on them, if they need to have other procedures done, that you will hold the hand of those doctors. Your angels will hold the hand of those doctors that may perform their procedures successfully. That these people may be healed completely, and these people may be healed supernaturally even, that they don't even have to go to the doctors, that they are healed supernaturally through your power. Our Father in heaven, I petition for these people, and I petition for the people that are struggling to pay their bills, the people that are struggling with their finances. I petition for them that I lift them up to you, that you will help them. You will send your angels of wealth, abundance, Uriel, Michael, Raphael, the angels that also deal with abundance, that you will send them, and they will present opportunities, methods, tools, that they will be able to touch these people with their power of abundance and prosperity and health, that these people will start to have money flowing into their lives, money coming in. The amount they spend, they'll get double amount back. And that money that these people have given in your cause, that they have given, Abba, you're going to multiply that 30,000 times 30,000. You're going to multiply that 30,000 times 30,000. Every money that they have given in your name, that you're going to multiply it, and you're going to show that you are the God of Abraham and Isaac and Yaakov, that you do not lie, you do not cheat people, you do not mislead them, that you guide them, and your truth is Torah. It's already written down. It's in black and white. It's not going to come again in a second time. You already given it. When you revealed yourself on Mount Sinai to the whole house of Israel, you revealed yourself in power, in glory, in might, that you are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You made promises to Abraham, and you delivered on those promises. And there are certain other promises that you're also going to deliver on. I know that. I know that very well. I thank you for that. Abba, I thank you. And Abba, I petition for these people, for their well-being that are listening, for their wealth, for their health, and for their direction, that you direct them to how they should lead their lives. And I know some people struggle. I know some people struggle to obey your Torah because they have difficulties with their families, because they have other issues going on, that Father, that you will make it easy for them. You will make it easy for them to follow you and obey you, that they may benefit, that they may be blessed. Just as you said to Yahoshua, Joshua ben Nun, you said to Joshua ben Nun that if you will follow these written words of the Torah, do not stray from it left, do not stray from it right. If you follow it, you will be blessed and you will be prosperous all the days of your life. And so it was so. So it was so. So I petition for all these people. I petition that you cover them with your angels round about, with their power, for their protection, for their prosperity, for their healing. Father, I petition this and I ask this, that you do so in the name of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. In our forefathers' names I ask this. Let it be so. Amen. Amen. So, as I said, that we, will do this segment every week as a special prayer for all our people that are out there. Now, the whole intention of this channel and this teaching is to teach and to empower you for Torah, for prosperity, for well-being, for wellness, for wholeness, all of those things, all of those good things. Our Parsha today, although it's Mishpatim, Mishpat, judgments, which starts with the book of Exodus chapters 21. Now these are the judgments upon which you shall set before them. If you buy an Abrahu, a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free and pay nothing. If he comes in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. In other words, it's laws about how indentured servants in the past, how they manage their families, their monies, their livelihood, etc. So it talks all about that, whether the person they're employed with, whether he gave them the wife or what happened, etc. Those were the things done at that time. Nowadays, we don't see this in this particular way. Nowadays, people have contracts, they sign up with jobs, and they then do the job that they've signed up for, etc. And also we see here that God speaks about mothers and fathers. It talks about how a son or a daughter should respect their mother and father, and what happens if somebody curses their father or mother. It's a punishable offense by death. And it also talks about other things that are going on around the person. Even talks about if men fight and hurt a woman with child so that she gives her birth prematurely, yet no lasting harm follows, he shall surely be punished accordingly as a woman's husband imposes on him, and he shall pay as a judge is determined. In other words, this idea of compensation is not new. Europe didn't invent it, neither did America. This idea came from the Bible, and even the taxation system came from the Bible. So these ideas were in the Bible, that if you hurt somebody, if you fought in some altercation, and in the process some woman got hurt, and even though she gave birth prematurely, yet she shall be compensated, etc. All these laws, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. It's not talking about taking people's eyes out, because I don't see anybody in Israel running with one eye in the past or now. I don't see people toothless in Israel, not in the past, not now, and hands cut off, etc. I don't see that, but I see that it's talking about measure for measure. In other words, measured punishment, measured compensation. If somebody's eye was damaged, tooth or hand or foot, it talks about what is measured compensation. And that measured compensation, like in an accident, somebody hurt themselves and they broke their leg, then what's a measured compensation? And it says that the judges will decide at the time what the measured compensation is. It says that if he knocks out the tooth of his male or female servant, he shall let him go free for the sake of his tooth. Maybe we'll help them put an implant. These days, maybe if somebody knocked your tooth out deliberately, or maybe in anger, one way it could be compensated is in this one it said that the servant will go free, and of course there was some compensation attached to that. But nowadays, you can get an implant, so he has to pay. He or she has to pay for the implant. That'd be a bit of a cost for them. So they'll think about 10 times before they knock your tooth out. It says if an ox goes a man or woman to death. This happens still. The ox, there are oxes in the east that are running around, even in the west, and people who raise cattle, they have to look out for that the ox doesn't go wild, the bull doesn't go wild, doesn't go a man or a woman to death, because it says that if that happens, then of course the owner of the ox will be acquitted, but there of course will be some kind of compensation plan going on. So again, that happens. If somebody in Texas, whether you see a lot of cattle over there, if somebody in Texas was to get mowed down by a bull, I'm pretty sure they'll be suing the rancher, and they'll be getting compensation on that. So these are the kind of laws that worked like that, and there are different laws, different things, etc. What would happen and why not, etc. I don't really want to go too much into it, because some of these laws are not relevant. If you're not going to live in an area, if you're living in New York, like you got rocks, this building, what do they call it? Concrete jungle? Yeah, if you got this concrete jungle, what chances do you have of being gored by an ox? I doubt it very much that you'll be gored by an ox. Heaven forbid. I'm not saying that it should happen. Heaven forbid that you do. But having said that, my point is simply this: that you won't be gored by an ox or anything like that, because it's a concrete jungle, right? These things don't happen in a concrete jungle. So my point, you get my point. These are for things for where there's a lot of people living and doing raising cattle. Maybe we're talking about states in America that raise cattle, they have flat lands, and so some of these things apply over there. Now I want to talk about you, the person, the people, how to help yourself, what to do, what not to do. I have sent updates, I have explained things. There's a few things I want to explain, and this is going to be, some of this stuff might be old, and some of it's going to be new, because you probably never heard of this stuff, and I think it's a good idea for you to know this stuff. One of the things that I want you to understand is, when I tell you to keep something in the house, there's a good rhyme and reason why I ask you to keep in the house. Because I wouldn't ask you to keep something in the house, it was just a waste of time, holding it in the house. So one of the things that you must have in a house in ample supply is salt. Why should we have salt in ample supply? Remember, at one time I told people to buy salt lamps. And yeah, that's a good idea. Buy a salt lamp and put a salt lamp in your house. Why? Because salt, removes negativity, and salt is also a great ingredient to keep in the home. Because let me explain to you, in the Indian tradition, what they believe and what they say. In the Indian tradition, they say that if you have lack of salt in your home, that it can bring Rahu. Rahu is like a energy that can bring in problems in your home, difficulties, resistances, blocks. So what we call a block in the modern term, or a resistance, like if you're trying to do a business, trying to get a job, trying to do something else, and Rahu is active. Why is Rahu active? According to the Indian tradition, according to us, God has a salt covenant with us. Okay, so we must always have salt in the home, always in ample supply. This is why I highly recommend you have salt lamps. You have salt in these chunks like a stone, like a rock, maybe a hand size. Just place it on your table on a plate. If you don't have the lamp, place it in your bedroom or somewhere. So place these things around your home, living room, bedroom. Why? Because this removes negativity. It's a great element to remove negativity. Salt is great for that, and it also will not allow Rahu to be activated. Rahu gets activated if there's lack of salt. Remember that. It means that your negative energies get activated in your home, and then you have to deal with negativity. So I highly recommend that you have salt in your homes, so that negative energies are not generated, that are going to cause problems in your home. And I cannot but emphasize this point so much. I must emphasize this point, very, very important point, that if you don't have the salt in your home, that will activate negative energy. So please remember this, that you must not allow these negative energies to be activated that can cause a problem in your home. And so always make sure that you have ample salt in your house. Okay, always make sure about that. And if you do, you will never have problem with the negative energy affecting your home. That's the first thing that I want to speak about. The second thing I want to speak about, and I say this with great authority, that what I have seen in my life, and what I want to make sure that you understand, that in my life I have seen these things happen, and I have especially taken care of these things so they don't happen. And one of the things I do with my wife, back in Pakistan, is that I tell my wife that always keep a bag of rice. Bags come in 50 kilograms in Pakistan, 20 kilograms in America, 20 kilograms and 10 kilograms in the UK. And they can come in 10 kilograms in Pakistan as well. But the amount of money that you pay for a 20 kilogram bag in the UK or America, we will probably pay less than that in Pakistan, and probably India as well. We'll pay less than that for a 50 kg bag. So I tell my wife, keep a 50 kg bag in the home, always packed full. And I tell her, keep 2 bags, because the amount of money that you pay in the US for one bag, and I know it was $40 for a 20 kg bag. And let me tell you, maybe today I'll calculate for you and tell you what a bag over here would cost, 20 kg. So 20 kg bag used to cost $40, probably gone up to about $50 now. And if 20 kg is $40, and let me see what it was. That would have been, according to the current, $46. So a 50 kg bag of rice in the East cost $46. Do you see what I'm talking about? $40 for a 20 kilogram, and twice the size of bag, maybe more than twice the size, because 50 is like 20 kilos plus 10. That would have cost $46 in the East. So I always told my wife, I said, listen, make sure that you always have one full bag in the home, and the second bag you use for your daily needs. And when that bag is going to come to almost empty, you make sure that you get the second bag. Always have one bag full and leave it there. And also, I instructed my wife to get grain, the actual grain, not the flour. I said, get the grain and put it in a jar and keep it in the home, even though you may not use it, you may never use it, you might just use flour that you have, but just keep 4 or 5 kilograms of grain in the house as a symbol, because that symbolic grain is meant for your blessing. And what that does, the grain, the rice, what that does, it empowers the planet Saturn. Because it empowers it, it brings in wealth into your life. Now, I want you to remember that. It brings in wealth into your life. So how can you utilize it? The way you're going to utilize it is, I'm not saying to you, hey, you got to have a 50 kilogram bag. No, I'm saying to you that if you have the money, get a 20 kilogram bag, or let's just say 2 10 kilogram bags. Let's just do it 10 kilos in the US and the UK. Get 2 10 kilogram bags of rice. Use one bag and keep the other spare. Rice will not go off, by the way. I have kept rice in the UK for almost 6 years. I remember I left the UK back in 2014 and 15, around that time, and I went back after 5 years, and my shed, my garden shed, still had the rice bag in there, sealed, and I opened it. It was completely fresh, like nothing happened to it. So yeah, it was kind of coldish weather, and the rice kept safe. And the rice, I'm not saying to you for you to keep 5 years a rice bag. I'm saying that get 2 bags, start eating one bag, and when the one bag finishes, and when you're about to go start the second bag, before you start the second bag, go buy another one, so that becomes your spare, and the second bag you can start up on that. That way your rice, you always have ample rice in the home, and also some sugar. Let me give you a testimony of sugar. I was in Pensacola, Florida before I moved to Ohio. And by the way, let me give you another testimony. This is going to be funny, but you're gonna know the power of the Kohen. One day before the announcement of the vice president that Mr. Trump wants to run with, there were 3 or 4 people. I think there was Mark Rubio of Florida, and there was a couple of other guys. There was a guy from Ohio, and you know what I said? I said the guy from Ohio is going to become the vice. Why? Because a Kohen lives in Ohio. That's how it's going to work now. So, and guess what? The next day, when the announcement was made, guess who got picked? The man from Ohio once. So, that shows you the power of the Kohen. What I say is going to happen. I don't care what other people think or do, that's going to happen. So, now I'm telling you this instruction. I bought a 30 kilograms or 30 pounds? Something like 30 pounds maybe. I went to Costco, by the way, and the Costco I went to back in 2015. I went to a Costco which was in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, because, Pensacola has no Costco. So I went to Mobile, Alabama, which was about, 51, 52, whatever kilometers or miles. I went over there and I bought a full bag, maybe 30 pounds or something of sugar. I brought it home. It was white sugar. I brought it home and I put it down there, and I never used it. Because I was using the brown sugar. I wasn't using the white sugar, and I thought maybe, for baking or something, maybe it'll be used. Anyway, it never got used. So I opened the bag and put it in a tub, and I closed the tub and I sealed it. And that tub was never used. For 4 years, that tub was never used. There was no ant attack, no ants got into it, but I kept an ample supply of sugar just there. It was just there for 4 years. And then 4 years later, I left for Ohio. I took the sugar with me, and I gave it to my friend in Ohio, and then she started to use it, and my goodness, it lasted a long time. Long time. She still has some. She gave it to the neighbors. She gave some to the neighbors, 4 or 5 kilos, and she still has sugar. I asked her, recently asked her, I said, do you still have that sugar? She said, yeah, I still have some. I still got it in my jar full. So, sugar in ample supply, what does that mean? It charges up your Saturn. It's great for blessings. So, again, I'm not asking you to bring a 30 pounds bag, because you might be like, what the heck? What the heck? I'm going to do with 30 pounds. No, I'm not asking you to bring a 30 pounds bag. I'm asking you just a jar full. Make sure that you always have a jar full of sugar in your home. Whether you eat it or not, don't matter. Must always be full, okay? Because if you're using it, if it gets half full, then just fill it up again. Make sure it's always full. So that's going to bring blessings to your home. Rice is going to bring blessings to your home. Salt is going to remove negativities, remove enemies that are around you. Because if you pick up some salt and you throw it on your front door in the morning, that will keep enemies at bay. There are people that are jealous. There are people that are envious. There are people all around us, maybe neighbors, maybe relatives that are jealous of you, that are envious of you, and they don't like you because you have good things. They don't like you because you have a nice car. They don't like you because you live in a nice house. These things happen, by the way. So we use these materials like salt to ward off enemies, to ward off jealous people. So I want you to be mindful of that, and I want you to use that to benefit yourselves and to protect yourselves. Now, there are people that run into financial difficulties. There are people around us that are running into financial difficulties. One of the biggest things that I'm going to tell you, that I have told you before as well, one of the biggest things that you do, and if you've done it, wonderful, God is going to take care of you, is that you never forget to tithe. There are people who fall up the stair and they stop tithing because they think they're going to save money. Guess what happens? They start to run into financial difficulty. And even those people that steal from God, how do they steal from God? Well, if they're supposed to tithe 100, they'll send in $20. They think that's enough for me. But when you steal from God, it's going to come back to you. It's going to turn around and come back to you, and your finance is going to get squeezed. Before you know it, you don't have the finances to support yourself. Now the banks are chasing you, credit card companies are chasing you, everybody else is chasing you, relatives are chasing you. Why? Because you owe people money. Why? Because you stole from God. So don't steal from God. Don't try to be a clever Dick Turpin that you think you're going to steal from God and get away with it. You won't get away with it. You'll get caught out, and you'll get banished in this world. By the way, in this world is where your punishment will be. It's not going to be in the millennial kingdom. So you may be waiting for the millennial kingdom for Jesus to turn up, but your punishment is here, not with Jesus. So be mindful of that. Take out money that belongs to God, and you have to give it to the Kohen in the gate. That is the orders, status quo. It's not about giving it to a pastor or donating it to some church. No, you don't have those instructions in the Torah. The instructions in the Torah, you give it to the Kohen in the gate, and God will bless you for that. God will send you tremendous blessings for that. And sure, if you didn't know, good chance to repent and turn away from what you did that was wrong. But you will never be struggling. You will never be struggling because you supported and you obeyed the Torah. You will not struggle for that. However, there are times when God can delay things for you. And there are reasons for that, and I discuss with my students these things all the time. The reasons is not because you've been a bad boy or because you didn't do the right thing. Sometimes the reason is that God is trying to bring people out, show you people around you who you thought they loved you, who you thought that they're caring for you, suddenly they turn against you. Why? Because of finances, because of other reasons. And so God is trying to show you who is in your favor and who is not, because he wants to protect you in the long run. This is a short thing. Not getting something in the short run is one thing, but getting it in the long run is another thing. So meaning He hasn't stopped your blessing. Your blessing is still on call. It's still there. It's still going to come on time. But God has delayed it for you to know who are your friends and who are your enemies. And sometimes that's great benefit. Because, listen, there were times, right, when I wanted something in the past, and I was like, well, I want it now. But God took His time and gave it to me in due course, and I got to know who is mine and who is not mine. Because, families change. I left countries. I moved on, from one country to another. And if I had stayed in the previous countries, then, if God had blessed me at that time with what I wanted, it would have gone to the wrong people. And I would have probably regretted giving it to the wrong people. So there are also times when you want a car, and you're like, well, as an example, let's say that you want to buy a Mercedes, and then 1 month later, 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, you say to yourself, you know what, no, I don't really like a Mercedes. I think I will go for a different car. That also happens, that you change your mind. It's happened to me. I wanted one particular car, and I was like, looking out for that car and, visualizing it and imagining me having that car. And then I decided, no, I don't want that car because its fuel efficiency wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't as comfortable as I wanted it. So I changed my mind and I opted for a different car. And so, these things happen. You will go through those phases. And I was like, thank God that I didn't buy that car, because hey, I'm much happier with the car that I have. And if I'd bought the one that I wanted at the time, I would probably not be happy with it. I would probably have to sell it and get this one instead. My point, that again, we change with time. Things change. Things change, and we want to change with that. So be mindful of that. Don't worry about it. If you have to change your car or where you live or the house that you living in, you don't like that place, you want a different house, a different city, different country, maybe different state. Like in America, so many states. So again, don't worry about that. That is perfectly normal, and that can happen. And so therefore, be mindful of that you can change. You can have change of mind. You can have change of mind about the things you want and go with what you desire. The car I wanted for a long time, I changed my mind. Then, I got a different car instead, because my friend came along and said, hey, have you seen this car? And I was like, no. So I looked at it. I really liked it. And I thought, okay, that's it. That's the one I'll take instead. So I ended up buying a different car from the one I'd wanted. And yeah, I got a car because, this is why I sometimes say that instead of being very precise about what car you want, why not just say, I have a luxury car? A luxury car leaves room open for many cars, for many different cars to come into your life. You can choose, instead of saying, I have a Mercedes or BMW, just leave it open to, I have a new luxury car. And then what happens is that you end up with a car at the time then God gives you the money, that you end up with a car that you really like. So I would suggest always that. And same with the house. You might say, I want a 4-bedroom or 5-bedroom house. But instead of saying 4 or 5 bedroom, just say that, Lord, give me a comfortable house to live with all the amenities that I need and with the right environment. That way, God can choose for you whether it's a 3-bed, 4-bed, 5-bed home, what kind of home you can afford, because, you have to pay taxes on that home, you have to live in that area, and you have to be happy with that in the area that you live. So always, again, you don't have to be, you can be precise, but you don't have to be. You can be loose about it. You can be like, God give me a house that I will be happy to live in, that will have all the amenities that I need. And that accommodates for your, extra rooms, like rooms that you want to use for storage. So if God sees that, hey, 3-bedroom house is too tight for you, He can give you a 4-bedroom house. And if He sees that a 5-bedroom house is too big for you to manage, He can drop it down to 4 or 3. Again, God knows better than us. He created us. He knows better than us. I'm not saying that you can't ask for a 4-bed or a 5-bed. I'm just saying that, sometimes it might be better to, leave the affirmation desire more open-ended, because it's easier. So just an idea. When I, built my home in the East, I didn't know what kind of house I wanted. I didn't know what kind of land. I didn't know what kind of place. I didn't even know which city. So I just left it open, and I said, God, Abba, Father, you give me the house that is right for me, in the right place, with the right amenities and the right amount of bedrooms. And I got a beautiful home. I built a really nice house in a nice city and in a nice location, and I was really happy with it, because my goodness, it has got everything that I wanted. So it was better for me to leave it open-ended. Similarly, I ask you to leave it open-ended. and that may be better for you. So, having said that, there are certain times that you do the affirmation. They're very powerful. So I sent out a list of affirmations that are used in a problem. There are times when we complain, and we complain in a negative way, and we say, Lord, why is it taking so long? Lord, when are you going to send me the blessing? Lord, when my breakthrough is going to come? There are times when we do that, and rightly so. I'm not saying why not. I'm saying sure, as human beings we do that. So again, my advice to you is to leave things open-ended and loose, so that God can work in your favor, and that way you get what you desire and you're happy with it. So with that, I'm not going to extend this lecture too much. I did send out a little update to my students about how to use the negative affirmations, how to use those in a positive way, and how they can work in your favor. If you're a tither, if you do your tithes and tzedakah, then you got that email. If you don't, you didn't get it. So therefore, if you want to be on that list of people who get their email, special updates that I send out, then you got to be a Torah doer, not just a speaker. You got to be a doer. You got to pay your tithes and offerings, and then you can write to me, and I can put you on the email list, and you can get your emails that I send out special emails to only my students. I don't deal with anybody else. I don't send them out to strangers, because there are many people who may listen to the broadcast, but they're not all my students, and they don't tithe, they don't do tzedakah. They think that they can have freebies. Well, freebies is it. Freebies don't get you nowhere. So if you want special powers, special authority, then you got to do the right thing. So with that, I wish you a happy Sabbath, a happy next week, and until next time, I say Shabbat Shalom to you.